Listeners, I've got a special treat for me, at least, and I hope for you. Anne's with us here. Anne is a professional beekeeper, and I'm going to have her introduce herself the way she wants to be introduced at this point. Go, Anne.
This is Anne Frey from Betterbee up in Greenwich, New York.
And I have been waiting patiently to talk with Anne so we could talk with the listeners about all the things you've been doing with all those beehives as you experiment, research, work, split, and divide, and do what it takes. Listeners, I'm Jim Tew, and I'm with Anne Frey. She's from Betterbee, and I'm from Honeybee Obscura. And we're coming to you today where we talk of something about bees every week. And this week, we're going to talk about multiple things.
We've got a lot of different things that have been going on at Betterbee, and I just threw that short list at you, Jim, and I hope you like it.
Yep, we're going to follow that list. I'll get into it here.
Welcome to Honeybee Obscura, brought to you by Growing Planet Media, the producers of the Beekeeping Today podcast. Join Jim Tew, your guide through the complexities, the beauty, the fun, and the challenges of managing honeybees. Jim hosts fun and interesting guests who take a deep dive into the intricate world of honeybees. Whether you're a seasoned beekeeper or just getting started, get ready for some plain talk that'll delve into all things honeybees.
And you sent me that list, and instead of saying these are all topics, I wanted to do them all at one time. It's like a Chinese smorgasbord where there's a lot to choose from here. You mentioned the mites right away. What's up with mites being here too early this past spring?
Well, I think that because mites breed in the bee brood and our winter finished off pretty nicely, the best explanation is that there was probably 1 or 1.5 more cycles of brood by the point in the summer where we usually see the right amount of mites to start treating. And we actually started seeing that number of mites, and it was disturbing us. And we were saying, why is this a month early? Well, why worry about why? We better treat. So we did our tests, and that showed us it was time to treat, even though it was a month early.
Well, first of all, what numbers were you looking at?
We do an alcohol wash on 300 bees. 300 is a half cup, and we don't want to see 6 or more. So that's 2% of the 300 makes us say, whoa, time to treat.
Okay. And you were seeing that number more than 2% earlier than you were seeing it in years past.
Yeah, I only remember one other year when we saw it this early, and I think that was 2020 in my experience at Betterbee. It was similar, 1 month early. I don't remember what the winter was like that year, though. But we always do our tests.
May I assume that you were using multiple control procedures, or do you have one favorite that you would say, or could you say, or should you say, since you sell multiple control systems?
Yeah, what we normally use for the nukes is Apivar, though occasionally we have used HopGuard or Apistan. For the hives, we usually use Formic Pro around July 4th, and then again around Labor Day. And then for everybody in the middle of winter around New Year's, we use oxalic acid
Vapor. Okay. So did I understand there's 3 treatments per year? Yes.
For the hives, yes, but for the nukes, Vaporvar is such a long treatment. It's on for like 56 days in the summer, and then they don't get treated again until the middle of winter.
And so this is an overall good program for keeping Varroa suppressed. It never eradicates anything. I'm sure the listeners know that. It's a constant, ongoing battle, and that keeps them suppressed well enough until you find out that they're attacking the hives earlier, and then you have to change all your battle plans.
It's never going to kill all of them. Everybody has Varroa. Occasionally, we discover in the fall that things that we thought, hives or nukes that we thought were doing great, they did suddenly succumb to Varroa. And my feeling then is that they must have gotten something from the woods, some untreated bees or some beekeeper near us that didn't treat. They just got into the same area and reinfested our bees from drifting, etc.
Hey, listeners, did you hear that? Even the best laid beekeeper plans don't always work. So for those of you who think that there's some silver chemical bullet or a procedural bullet, even then, sometimes you're going to lose. Before Varroa, and we had winter kills. I mean, they were not anything like today, but 8, 10, 12% winter kill. But they were mainly starvation and just going into winter bad. But winter kills have been here, and they will stay here. Well, it seems like the Varroa thing. Would you have any final closing remarks for admonishing, suggesting, recommending for people listening?
I want to just say again, we seem like we're always saying this to students in our classes and to customers, that they can't wait until early fall to treat for Varroa. It's been too long with the bees getting some viruses from the mites all summer and late spring. And they could kill the mites in the early fall, and the bees have already started to sicken from the viruses. So they're going into winter somewhat sick, even though there's a layer of dead mites on the bottom board.
Listeners, that was a very polite way of telling you to get up right now and go out and do something about mites, because you got to close the door before somebody steals a horse. All right. Hey, you talked about this color thing that you've been working with. You mentioned, and this is completely different now. Listeners, change gears.
Yeah, warning.
Warning, we're changing subjects here. What's with this neon green marker you were talking about?
Well, the Queen marking pen this year, the international color is green. And we've gotten, boxes and boxes of 12 markers, and they're neon green. And it looks so bright. And then about a month later, when we see those queens again, we're like, what is that? We almost think that it's gray. We're like, where's this gray mark? And we look in kind of imagination. You could say that used to be green. At least it's a mark and it catches our eye, but it's not neon green after a while goes by.
Well, I'm an old paint guy. Maybe you needed more than one coat. Listener, she's holding up the pen. Maybe you should have to mark that queen 3 times. How is that for labor intensive?
Sounds good with the proper amount of drying. That's one thing. I know we have another queen producer who has a Kelly green kind of a paint pen, and his are so clear and sharp even months later. So we're going to talk to the purchasing people here for this is my 5-year plan. 5 years from now, we'll have a good green.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. In the meantime, you've got a really good bargain on getting rid of these pens that don't hold up, I'm sure.
Hey,
so
I'm probably
check
going to get in trouble for mentioning any of this.
Well, don't get in trouble. It's all in good fun.
I know some people that they don't even use the color of the year. I know someone who makes like they make a large dot in pink, and then they put a blue dot in the middle, and they just want to decorate when they have a range of, they got the whole kit when they bought their paint pens.
Okay. Those people are not 76 years old with other things that need to be done.
Nope, 16.
Let's take a break and hear from your boss. He'll be talking about the Betterbee Company.
Just a quick reminder, Varroa mites might be lurking on your bees even if you can't see them. Protecting your colonies means actively combating these mites, the leading cause of colony death. The good news? There are plenty of natural methods and treatments available to keep those mite counts in check. Learn about different monitoring techniques at betterbee.com/mites.
You do mark queens. As a matter of course, you mark queens all the time.
Yeah, anytime we see a queen that's not marked, a mated queen, not a virgin, we mark her. Because almost all of the things that we do, either getting a nuke ready to sell or breaking down a colony to create nukes, we have to find the queen first. So we're just trying to make it easier on ourselves and the customer to have a marked queen.
Well, I used to mark queens a lot. It's the old adage, practice on a drone. I use a really small stick. I used to use camel hair brushes, and I painted the wrong thing too often. So I just use a solid probe now, but when I do mark. And why? This is off the cuff and you're not prepared for it, but when are we going to have marking dots that have some kind of electronic capability about them, can send out a Wi-Fi signal on where my queen is in the colony, or how to find that she's in the upper deep. We got all this GPS miraculous system. Why don't we have some kind of queen GPS system? Why isn't there a dot that's charged, and so you can just set off the charge, kill the queen when it's time to replace her, not have to find her? I mean, this could be a lot more than just marking a queen.
Just like a tiny little electrocution or bomb. And that's horrible, Jim.
Well, okay. All right.
The idea of finding her, though, I think when you have the GPS thing, that it's within a few feet, they found your car within a few feet, or you can find the keys are within 20 feet of yourself, if you put something on your keys. But yeah, I don't know if the beehive is big enough for that to work out.
No, that's true.
I bet it's coming.
There's a group, and it's not a small group, that's concerned about these energy waves anyway, and the effect it has on bees and animals and their orientation and that kind of thing. So maybe I am really barking up the wrong tree.
I don't know. I thought that was debunked.
Well, it's probably debunked. I don't know.
I do know somebody who used to lay out and sunbathe under the power lines because he said it made him feel good.
Okay, this is just really going down a rabbit hole pathway here. I'm trying to one-up you, but I've got a beekeeper years ago. He's gone now.
He started it.
I did. I started. He said that when we have metal grid queen excluders on our colonies, that those things would pick up an atmospheric charge, that they weren't grounded, because the wood served as a buffer, and all these bees would come back with a positive charge, and then they would charge that queen excluder, and then that would have atmospheric effects. So here's the deal, and then we'll move on. He grounded all his queen excluders, and he said the bees were much happier, that he didn't get these extraneous stings from angry bees. And Anne, I did not make a picture of the only grounded beehives that I've ever seen, and I didn't snap a picture. We got a limited time here, and we're off chasing every rabbit I've ever seen, but I'm not going to be lying under high-tension power lines, and I probably won't be grounding my beehives. Let's move on to your swarming.
All right. The crazy swarming hives. Yeah, we repeatedly this year, and I have never seen it before this, have found hives that are quite depopulated with just an amazing number of queen cells that have been used. The queens emerged from them. And I only could think, did they just swarm repeatedly and depopulate themselves? What do you think?
Well, I want to support you in that. I'm not a wise old guy, but I have seen colonies that were just swarming stupid. I don't know what to say about it. They just...
Stupid bees.
Stupid bees. What are you doing? You're not even allowing the queen to reestablish. You're just, keeping first, the instant a queen emerges, sometimes they're leaving with unmated queens. So they were just hyper swarmers. Is that some genetic stock for the moment, or is there some sense of genetic survival statistically by having 9 and 10 small swarms from one colony? I don't know, but I don't see it now. But in the past, there have been colonies that were annoying with these softball-sized swarms that they just kept belching out.
Yeah, we didn't actually see small swarms this year. We just saw the evidence after the fact that there was, 2 deeps and some supers and enough bees that you wouldn't even think would fill a nuke. So we just disassembled it, used that hive stand for something else. Couldn't even picture putting a new queen in it or giving them some brood. It was so small.
Well, there's all kinds of beekeepers, and you have a lot of hives and a lot of responsibility, and you've got monetary expectations on you. But if you just had 4 hives of bees and one of them was a crazy swarmer, I can guarantee you that there's beekeepers who will go through extraordinary means, like you've got a runt puppy or something, to try to save that swarm. And it is kind of entertaining. And I'm giving you this story because I've got one right now in my yard. I've got a swarm that was hardly a pound in size that moved into a colony that was a winter kill that was mostly an active wax moth colony. And you want to ask that little swarm, what are you thinking survivally when you take on fighting these big fat wax moths So you know what I did? I stood there and picked out wax moths like I was collecting fish bait, trying to kind of level the playing field. And it's a waste of time, but it generates questions. I just did an article for it, and I want to know if all that frass that those wax moths develop, is that a kind of defensive structure? The larval stages that they make, when they have all this silky morass frass.
That stuff that it shows where they have gone, like the trail behind. Okay.
Well, there's some too on the bottom board. When the bees clean it up, there's all this, I don't know what it is. I can't tell if it's silk or it's just this stringy seaweed-looking thing.
Yeah, it must be silk. In a tangle, the only other thing they produce is droppings.
Yep. It's not the droppings. Now, the droppings are on the bottom board, and the swarm's dealing with that, because then you got a second level of wax moths down on the bottom board. They don't really get to be big, nice wax moths. And then there's all the other opportunistic invaders, the beetle larvae that are degraders there, and earwigs and all the other things that rummage through that.
The cleanup crew, earwigs. People hate earwigs, but I'm just telling them, they're just cleaning up little bits. They don't do anything bad. But wax moths, no way. So are you taking pictures and documenting the downfall of this little colony, or?
I am, because I document all my downfalls, which are numerous. People have told me in the past, you're a very negative writer. No, I'm not a negative writer. I just write about things that don't work instead of boasting and gloating about the things that I've done that did work. So go with that. I will show pictures sometimes of this. And just for those who do care, we will post on the webpage. This International Queen Color Code is commonly available, but we'll stick that for any new people that's here.
But people should understand, if they're not a queen producer selling queens, they can do whatever they want.
You can do whatever you want. You can use
stripes.
Yeah, I don't know about the multicolor thing. That's interesting, but
well, yeah, you could do bright pink. You could do a solid circle of any color you want. The stripes takes a fine, detail and eyesight. What's this stick you were talking about that was it a matchstick poked into a jar of paint, or?
I used to use round toothpicks, and I'd take my knife and I'd cut it right in half. And then that was the diameter that I wanted to stick in the lid, not in the bottle, stick it in the paint in the lid. And so you had a natural limit to how far the stick would go into the paint. And then I would just go touch the thorax of the queen. And it was a good, clear, small dot. It may take 2 dots, and that was it. And then when you're done, you throw the stick away, because I got a whole box of toothpicks over there. And then there's these magnetic, well, we shouldn't go into that, but there have been magnetic markers. But
we're going off on a tangent. It's all right, though.
Well, we've been on tangents all day, but that's what happens, I guess, when you have a multi-topic discussion. Now, you and the listener should know I didn't go on every tangent that my mind came up with. I did stay reasonably well on topic. We're winding down, and the last thing you said was that you've had a lot of rainstorms, and it was followed by robbing. So we were wondering, what's up with that?
I was wondering, because it was distinctly different from one day to the next, and we had an afternoon rainstorm and then a night rainstorm, and the next day they were just so fast to jump onto the frame. The first frame you pull out and you just set it aside. They were going crazy on those for all 3 of us workers, and I just started thinking, is this because all the flowers out there are rinsed completely clean and they're just still covered with raindrops or nothingness? There's no sweetness in them. What do you think?
I like that hypothesis a lot, especially if you had any interest in the science of it. Is it this way throughout the day? As the day changes and as the world dries and warms, and those blossoms are photosynthetically powered and reproduce more nectar, do the bees then move over again to the natural sources?
Well, when I saw this, it was morning, so I could see where you're heading there. Luckily, we finished all our bee work today before it got real hot, but I could go back out and throw a frame down in that same yard in the afternoon and see what happens for science.
I've become a real supporter of robbing. It's a very normal, logical thing for colonies to do. I mean, this is not let's go make friends and help each other in the great ecosystem. No, it's every colony for themselves, and they'll do whatever it takes to be the colony that survives.
It is kind of funny because sometimes people hold the beehive or the bee colony up as a example of cooperation and everything's wonderful. But like you say, they see somebody out there, there's some other colony that's weak, they're going to pounce on it and tear it to pieces. And people don't see them as robbers because the ones that stand out are yellow jackets. They don't realize the robbers are probably other honeybees.
We've already talked about wax moths, and then they show up. So everything about this is just a scorched earth policy.
It's, you got to stay alert.
And we're done. I enjoyed talking with you, and it was insightful.
It sometimes was.
And even though we went off on tangents, you made me feel guilty about that, but I like tangents.
Oh, sorry.
I thought they were conducive. Can we do this again sometime?
Yeah, sounds good. We can ricochet and tangent and ping pong around.
Well, I've never heard of all that, but that would be that'd be a fun thing to do. We'll talk more when you come up with more information. And thank you for your time, which is always valuable. I do appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim. I'll see you next time.